It's time for review part 2 of Hearthstone's next expansion, Descent of Dragons. Last time we covered the cards centered around the League of Evil and the League of Explorers exploits. But this time we're actually going to see dragons and other denizens of Wormblight which have been caught up in this epic battle. The reviews of the rest of the cards from Blizzcon weekend are coming up. Let's get into it.
Who's up for an adventure?
Before we get into the reviews, I'd like to introduce how we do card reviews on this channel. Rather than the normal 5-star rating for cards, we ask the 3 questions Hearthstone. First, does the card fit into one of the current powerful decks, usually tier 1 through tier 3 decks, per HS Replay's tier list, which we will call meta decks. So, is it meta now? Second, will the card fit into a meta deck once the set comes out? Meaning, if it won't slot into a current deck, is it powerful enough to make a new deck archetype viable, at least taking into account what's been revealed thus far? So, is it meta later? And perhaps most importantly, is it a card that will inspire or enable an experimental or meme deck? So, is it meme deck worthy? Each card will get a yes or no to these questions. Now, for those of you without a lot of time, there's a time code in the description below to jump to 4 quick reviews. For everyone else, let's get into the detailed reviews. In the last review, link in the description, we covered Galakrond-related cards, side quests, and Dragon Explorers. This time, we get to look at what else will be coming with Descent of Dragons. And dragons will be descending into each class. Each class will get a legendary dragon of their own to fight alongside them. For example, Druid will get Ysera Unleashed, with the same stats as her classic counterpart, as a 9 mana 4/12. Her new effect is a battle cry, which will shuffle 7 dream portals into your deck. These dream portals summon a random dragon when drawn. As with other casts when drawn cards, these will activate when drawn and draw another card, meaning you could summon up to 7 dragons the turn after playing her. She's expensive, but summoning 6 to 7 dragons on the following turn with an empty deck, or even gradually over the rest of the game, is a powerful effect. Some of the current quest druids consider Chef Nomi as a win condition. Decks like this may be willing to swap out a card for Ysera Unleashed as an alternative or one more win condition. So yeah, meta now. Due to the viability in a quick cycling quest druid deck, as well as the power level of the next card we'll cover, I believe there's a significant chance of Ysera descending into the new meta as well. And as for meme decks, with Elise the Enlightened, Augmented Elec, and Innervate, we have the opportunity to shuffle a crazy amount of random dragons into our deck to be summoned when drawn. When the first extra one of these is drawn and burned, it stops the draws, meaning shuffling 14 to 28 dragons into your deck guarantees a full board for several turns. How many dragons can we summon in a single game? Who knows, but memes will happen. With each class fighting together with dragons, we also get a special dragon breath for each class. In Druid, Ysera is using the Breath of Dreams, a 2-mana spell which draws a card, and if you're holding a dragon, you also gain an empty mana crystal. Now we see why Wild Growth had to be nerfed, to make way for this card. So, 2 mana to draw a card is not great by itself. In that case, you may as well use Novice Engineer and get a 1/1 body as well. However, the potential upside of gaining an empty mana crystal if you're holding a dragon suddenly knocks the power level of this card out of the park. To make it consistent and worth running, it would need to be in a deck with a fair number of dragons, but when both effects go off, this will be a scary card. At the moment, there are no choose one cards with the Dragon Tribe, and the only meta deck at the moment which includes a dragon is Malygos Quest Druid. That deck only has 1 dragon, Malygos. With an inconsistent upside to this card, it would not be worth including in this deck, so it wouldn't be meta now. However, this effect is powerful, and with so many ways to cheat with mana, Druid does seem likely to be able to pull off a dragon or partial dragon archetype. there will at least be a tier 3 deck to include this. Is a deck with only ramp and dragon synergy cards viable? Almost. We'll use this with Fire Tree Witch Doctor and Scaleworm to get us to 9 mana quickly, and start dropping classic massive dragons one after another to show what it looks like when dragons really do descend into Hearthstone. While we don't know who the legendary dragon for hunters is yet, we do get a look at what their Dragon's Breath does. Corrosive Breath is a 2 mana spell that deals 3 damage to a minion. If you're holding a dragon, it also hits the enemy hero. It's a non-freezing frostbolt for minions that could Smorc as well. If dragons could work in Hunter, this would see some play. Spell Hunter, Mech Hunter, Highlander Hunter, and several other archetypes, which seemed unlikely to work at first, have proven themselves to be quite powerful. So if there are a few cards to support a dragon archetype in Hunter, it could actually work. That being said, without the upside of doing face damage too, this card is not powerful enough to see play in meta decks. Although there are quite a few types of Hunter in the meta at the moment, none of them use dragons at all, so this is definitely not a meta now card. And we've seen 6 out of the 10 Hunter cards revealed already. Assuming that the Dragon Legendary makes slot number 7, there are only 3 more cards which could possibly support a dragon archetype. 1 Legendary, the Primordial Explorer from last video, this card, and a few decent or powerful dragons in neutral are unlikely to be sufficient to make Dragon Hunter viable. It needs some really powerful help to make it work, and without that, this card won't see play in the new meta either. Hopefully cards to prove me wrong will be revealed soon. However, this will be absolutely invaluable to our Immerus-controlled Dragon Hunter meme deck. Removing threats and getting them to think about defending their face is one of the only ways we'll be able to drop Immerus on turn 10 without dying. Yes, this will see play in meme decks. Now we do get to see who the Mage Dragon is. Malygos, Aspect of Mana, is a 5 mana 2/8 with a battle cry that if you're holding a dragon, discover an upgraded mage spell. What does it mean by upgraded mage spell, you ask? These are the upgraded mage spells. They're basic mage spells which either cost less or have a more powerful effect. The only exception is that Mirror Image is missing, and it has been replaced by Tome of Intellect. In Wild, it'll be possible to double Malygos' Battlecry with Bran Bronzebeard and get 2 of these overpowered cards, but this will likely make waves in Standard as well. The current Highlander Mage decks probably would slot this in for its powerful effects. I'm not certain which card it would replace, possibly Blastwave, but both decks could seriously consider it as they run Alexstrasza and Kalecgos. They may want to add 1 or 2 more dragons for consistency, but it'd be worth it. And Dragon Mage has been close to viable for some time. With this, and whatever the Mage Dragon Breath is revealed to be, it should finally be able to swoop into the meta. And if one of these looks scary, why not see how many aspects of Magic we can play in a game? With Luna's Pocket Galaxy, Hexlord Malakras, Baleful Banker, Augmented Elec, Barista Lynchen, and Sathru Var, to be covered shortly, we can make a scary number of copies of this card. The difficulty of getting the extra copies probably undercuts the benefit of all these upgraded spells. But what are meme decks for? Let's have some fun. So Reno somehow managed to get Malygos on his side. But Sir Finley gets to ride in on the back of Nosdormu, the Timeless. This time Nosdormu is a 4 mana 8/8 with a battlecry that sets each player to 10 mana crystals. Even at 5 mana cheaper than his classic counterpart, there is danger that this version may not see much more play. While a 4 mana 8/8 is crazy powerful, you give your opponent 10 mana first to deal with it. As if this is played on turn 4, you'll gain 6 empty mana crystals, but your opponent will start their turn with 10 full mana crystals. However, it really could throw off your opponent if they chose cards early on with the intent to curve out, and they don't have a good way to deal with it. And the added bonus is that this is still a great card in the late game. An 8/8 for 4 mana when you've got 6 mana left over for something else is still a powerful play. Oh, and thank heavens Evolve is going back to Wild by the time this is available, because Desert Hare evolves into this would make the interaction even more cancerous. Rest in peace, Wild. Would this see play in current meta decks? There are 5 unique Paladin archetypes in the meta at the moment, but none of them would use this effectively in the early game. While a couple might consider slotting it in as a late game extra pressure play, the benefit doesn't seem worth it, as all the archetypes hope to kill you quickly with an OTK, or so much value you can't win. Would a dual Paladin or an archetype partially built around this be viable? Maybe. Probably. As it is only one card, you can't build your whole deck expecting to be able to play it early on, but you can have a greedier curve to your deck in anticipation of capitalizing on this card and recovering quickly from your opponent using 10 mana first. And if you don't have the cards in hand to recover, you just don't play it. Some decks thrive on holding a powerful card until late game to ensure a powerful swing. This, with 6 mana for something else, seems legitimately powerful. Discuss with me in the comments below if you disagree, but I'm going to give this meta later status. So what crazy things can we do with a card like this? There's so much. While Astral Communion hasn't seen much play back in Standard, would it be different if it didn't have the downside of discarding your hand, but actually summoned an 8/8 instead? Certainly. Paladin doesn't have the other ramp tools like Druid, and it benefits your opponent too, but Paladins do have Call to Adventure to help draw this more consistently when the deck is built correctly. So yeah, we're going to thrash some people with massive dragons from atop this bronze dragon. Apparently taking a cue from the Sands of Time, Dormammu gives Paladins Sand Breath, a 1-mana spell which gives a minion +1/+2, and gives it Divine Shield if you're holding a dragon. I suppose taking an extra hit before dying can be like buying time. Secret Paladin often wins the game by keeping a resilient minion on board and buffing it with Blessing of Kings to burst the opponent down. And on a Brazen Zealot, this has a similar effect to playing a Beaming Sidekick, except the possibility to get a Divine Shield instead of a 1/2 minion. Sand Breath could also be used to help protect a high-value target in Quest Paladin, increasing the chances of being able to make multiple copies of them. Sadly, Mechanical Whelp doesn't count as a dragon to activate this. While the effect is nice, it isn't powerful enough to earn a place in any of the current meta decks, especially since none use dragons very well. If a Dragon Paladin can rise into the new meta in the upcoming expansion, this could see play. But there don't seem to be enough tools to support the archetype at the moment. While a turn 5 Dormammu the Timeless and this would make a nice 9/10 dragon with Divine Shield if you have another dragon in hand, I'm not sure this would merit inclusion in such a deck, as many of the tools to remove big minions would likely be able to deal with a buffed and even Divine Shield minion just as well. A more powerful card would probably be preferred, so I can't give this meta status later either. However, hand buff Dragon Paladin can make use of this on a Wormguard to buy time to use Dragon Speaker on a couple Bronze Herald Death Rattle rewards. It's not amazing, but it would potentially help a Dragon Paladin make it to their big dragons, so this might enable a meme deck or two, sure. With magic, it seems dragons can be made up of anything, even wax. Togwaggle's rogues get Waxadread as their legendary dragon. He's a 5-mana 7/5 dragon with a death rattle that shuffles a candle into your deck that resummons Waxadread when it's drawn. It's aggressively statted, gives extra value, and Rogue has a few tools to trigger death rattles multiple times. As the only current meta Rogue deck is Tempo Rogue, we have to ask, would this fit in Tempo Rogue? It's an interesting refill and continuation after Myra's Unstable Element against a deck which succeeds in stabilizing against a Tempo deck, keeping you in the game a little bit longer. If Waxadread's Candle works like other cast when drawn cards, Toland's Goblet from Heist Baron Togwaggle can add a bunch of copies to your hand and keep the pressure on and stave off fatigue. Is a 5 mana 7/5 without burst potential sufficient to merit inclusion in a Tempo Rogue? That's really hard to say. One copy of Waxadred's Candle going off before the game ends is a huge tempo advantage if done quickly enough, but it would be difficult to pull off consistently. I'd really want to play this before making that judgment call, but I'm going to go ahead and lean towards some tempo rogues would include this, and reduce their win rate slightly against faster decks, while improving their win rate slightly against long game decks. As for the new meta, this actually pairs pretty well with the new Rogue Galakrond, benefiting from the extra card draw and mana reduction, as well as the Lackey synergy and Heist Baron Togwaggle's Toland's Goblet synergy mentioned a moment ago. I'm sure we'll see at least a tier 3 deck including this, and I wouldn't be surprised if it climbs to a higher tier. Infinite Dragon Rogue buying us time to charge up our Togwaggle's schemes so that we can shuffle a bunch of Kartut defenders? Not quite memey enough. Honestly, I thought the meme was complete with infinite wax dragons, but we may actually have to think outside the melt the box to figure out a truly meme-tastic deck for this card. But yes, memes will happen with this card. And what does Waxadred breathe? Candle Breath, of course. It's a 6 mana spell for Rogue that draws 3 cards, but it actually only costs 3 mana if you have a dragon in hand. Sprint almost never sees play anymore as a 7 mana draw 4. So without dragons, this card is not worth including in a deck. But 3 cards for 3 mana? Now we're talking. A deck with enough dragons to make this work has to develop for this to see play. And Tempo Rogue is definitely not that deck, so this is not meta now. However, this is the Descent of Dragons expansion, and I think Waxadred will see play. So a few more cheap or powerful dragons aligning with Rogue's game plan would make this card viable in the upcoming expansion. I'm hopeful that dragons needed to make this work will be revealed, but unfortunately, with what we know so far, that just isn't the case. So this is not meta later right now. Confused yet? Basically, a few good dragons will make this meta later, but it won't make it there unless dragons are released, which Rogue can use well with this card. Not meta later, asterisk. As for meme decks, card draw is always welcome on the road to shenanigans. Even more so when it leads us to an archetype that seems off the wall, like Dragon Rogue. So yeah, we might extinguish ourselves trying to get a Dragon Rogue to work, but this card will be in that deck. Just like with Hunters, while we don't know who the legendary dragon for Shaman is, we do know what the dragon's breath is. Lightning Breath. This breath is a 3 mana spell that does 4 damage to a minion, but if you're holding a dragon, it does 4 damage to a minion and the minions next to it. 3 mana, 4 damage, not bad. 3 mana, 12 damage, speechless. If Dragon Shaman can be a thing, this'll definitely help it get there. It's a localized Flame Strike for 4 mana less at the low cost of having dragons in your deck. This is almost powerful enough to see play in a number of classes even without the dragon-triggered upside. But with how crazy powerful Shaman decks are in the meta right now, they wouldn't sacrifice any of their cards for 4 damage to a single target. And no current meta Shaman decks run dragons, so it would not be meta now. Shaman doesn't have enough dragon cards available to make this really work yet, but just like Candle Breath, this merits an asterisk about future dragons being revealed. However, with so many other good control tools available to Shaman already, it needs really good dragons to make this card worth including in a meta deck. This is not meta later based on what has been revealed thus far. To my knowledge, Dragon Shaman has never been a thing, so this opens the doors to a new archetype. and it may be on a meme-worthy level, on par with Freeze Shaman a while back. Unless a lot of support comes out for the archetype, playing this in Dragon Shaman will be a meme in and of itself. That being said, if Dragon Shaman does become a legitimate deck, this card is just good enough that it'll lose its meme deck worthy status. Deathwing is back again, and he's cheaper than ever. Warriors get Deathwing Mad Aspect as their legendary Fire Lizard. He's an 8 mana 12/12 with a battle cry which reads, attack all other minions. The indiscriminate destruction aspect of Deathwing hasn't changed, but you don't have to discard your entire hand to play him. On an empty board, or to clear a board of tokens on your opponent's side, this is amazing with a 12 attack minion staring down your opponent. But usually by turn 8, there are enough stats on board that Deathwing will kill himself trying to clear. If he survives, he may only have a few health that increases the options to remove him before you can Smorc 12 damage. Deathwing is far too slow and contrary to the game plan for Aggro Warrior, but he does serve as one more potential board clear for Control Warrior. Some adventurous souls may consider swapping a Brawl for Deathwing, or drop something else for the opportunity to put some early, at least for Control Warrior, pressure on the opponent. It seems doubtful though, so this does not earn meta now. As for the new meta, using Smolderthorn Lancer as an early removal with this in hand, then following up with a few good dragons, and doing a final swing with Deathwing to push for the win, seems like a decent strategy for a controlled dragon warrior. With the level of impact this can have, especially against a board of lackeys in Rogue or Shaman, there's a decent chance Deathwing burns his way into the new meta. And Warmaster Voon finally gets to shine. Still in a meme deck though. Deathwing will clear the way once, or twice, for a steady stream of big body beasts, dragons. With the dragon synergies available to Warrior, this Deathwing will enable us to have some fun with an archetype that will still likely be a meme. So meme on. And what does Deathwing exhale? Molten something. Fair enough. Molten Breath is a 4 mana spell for Warrior, which does 5 damage to a minion, and gives you 5 armor if you're holding a dragon. As with many of the other Breath cards, the effect without the dragon benefit is fairly weak for the mana cost, but it's decent with a dragon in hand. 4 mana for 5 damage to a minion and 5 armor? It's okay, but it's not worth building around. And none of the current meta warrior decks run dragons, and this card is disappointing to play without them, so this is not a meta now card. It's not all that impressive for the upcoming meta either. If a dragon control warrior can reach meta status, this card might make the cut. However, even in a dragon control deck, I'm not sure this would earn a slot over other control or armor gain tools. 5 damage to a minion is nice, but I'd almost prefer the card draw from Shield Block than the damage to a minion from this. With the base damage, if this drew a card while you're holding a dragon, I'm certain it would see play. Hopefully I'm wrong, but I fear this is too weak to see play as is. Though, sure, as one more survival tool to keep us alive long enough to play Warmaster Voon, this can slot into our Dragon Synergy only deck. Of course, with so many dragons swarming the skies, it's not surprising that some long-range minions would join the fray. Dragonbane is the non-dragon legendary for Hunter, which deals 5 damage to a random enemy after you use your hero power. It's a slightly understated 4 mana 3/5, but if you can line up the effect for 1 or 2 shots, this is a scary looking mech. While Mech Hunter doesn't tend to use the hero power too much early on, this is not a bad magnetized target, and it might be able to draw a removal, allowing one of your other mechs to survive and overwhelm the opponent. And if they let it live, well, 5 damage to the face or a minion they're hoping to use to take down your mechanical army will hurt. Quite a bit. 5 damage to be exact. This also looks like fun in a quest deck as well, though it might not be an auto-include in that one. Still, it looks to be meta now. and paired with the toxic reinforcements we covered last time, it looks as though Blizzard is pushing a hero power synergy hunter archetype. Especially with replicating Menace and this card, a mech quest hunter looks like a very scary possibility. I'm pretty sure this will ballista its way into the new meta. Sorry. And yes, this legendary will be recruited to join our Clockwork Automaton, Blackwalled Pixie, Kobold Sand Trooper, Leper Gnome, Toxic Reinforcements, Semi-Smorc deck. Meme them with an arrow to their knee. Let's move on, shall we? Another skilled shot joining the battle with hunters is the Doorman Sharpshooter, a 1-mana 1/3 which allows your hero power to target minions. So yeah, hero power hunter is something Blizzard's pushing, alright. And this is definitely a great way to start a game. Admittedly, you don't usually want to use your hero power on turn 2, so playing this on 1 mana might feel kind of awkward, but a 1 mana 1/3 is just good stats. And if played on turn 3 with your hero power to help protect a 2-drop, it feels pretty good too. Obviously, there's not any real synergy for this with Quest Hunter, other than being a resilient 1-drop. And it doesn't really help the game plan of any of the other meta decks, so it doesn't make its way into the current meta. However, with how many hero power synergy cards are coming out, and the potential to use this to protect a 2-drop or other magnetization targets later, there's a decent chance this will see play. Let's give this a fairly hopeful meta later. And it's time to Smorc! Wait, what? Isn't this like the antithesis of Smorc? No, wait. We could trade? Nope. Face? Yup. We bait and meme them with a card that could trade, but go face anyways. Trade? Nope. Face? Yep. Moving on. Not all the denizens of Warmblight caught up in this battle can fly or fight long range. Sometimes secretive beasts stalk the field of battle. For example, this hunter minion, Stalker, is a 2-mana 2/3 beast which casts a secret from your deck after you use your hero power. Hunter, hero power. Okay. And how do you Smorc even harder? Thinning your deck for damage cards while you hit their face, of course. Secret Hunter, Secret Highlander Hunter, and Quest Hunter all have potential synergies with this card. While not exciting to play on 2 and hero power on 3, it can be decent to cycle through your deck during the mid-game in Secret or Secret Highlander, so we'll go ahead and give this meta now verdict. As for the upcoming meta, with this many possible synergies, a deck of hero power hunter surely rises to meta status, right? Even if one going full hero power synergy doesn't develop, the bridge this forms between the new cards and thinning your deck on a fairly statted 2-drop, when needed, means this almost certainly phases into a new meta deck. Why? And yes, the semi-Smorc goodness got even better. Could this meme go meta? Not when we've got Clockwork Automaton and Blackwalled Pixie weighing it down. How much damage will our hero power do in these games? If stalking dragons made of wax doesn't get your rogue spirit excited, what about a dragon's hoard? Rogues get a powerful new Thief archetype enabler in this 1-mana spell, which allows them to discover a legendary minion from another class. My favorite deck is getting a buff. We get to discover a legendary minion from another class. The legendary minions from this review alone make my mouth water, and 6 chances over a game at a Shutterwalk or Katrina Muerte is very exciting. Let's just hope we don't get Hyreek, Duskfallen Aviana, and Black Howl Gunspire as our only options. Though, Gunspire would be fun. Anyways, would this work in Tempo Rogue? Probably not. A 1-mana spell that doesn't summon a minion isn't a very good tempo play, and the unreliability would hurt. It works well with Questing Adventure as an activator, but that's not enough to get it into the only current meta rogue deck. Quest Rogue is sitting steady in tier 4, just outside the meta, and a card like this might be just what the archetype needs to get great again. Well, it's always been great, but just not top tier. Compared with the other cards which generate cards from other classes, this looks as though it should be able to provide quality cards much more reliably. And this is a card that is just good enough to run in any rogue deck that wants cheap, low-cost spells. So I do declare, this will be used in upcoming meta decks. And the memes? What better meme dream is there than discovering Shutterwalk, Katrina Muerte, Armadillo, or Archmage Antonidas in a cheap spell, taunt deck with the new Galakron generating tons of Battlecry lackeys? Maybe we include Lorewalker Cho and Body Wrapper as well, just to see what chaos would ensue? While certainly not advisable, we'll probably do it. Now, in the expansion focused on dragons, it's good to remember that not all dragons aim to control the skies. The Evasive Dragon is a powerful 7/7 neutral taunt which can't be targeted by spells or hero powers. While a bit slow at 7 mana, this lady can lock in a board stabilization against aggressive decks. She's not enough on her own, but since she can't be easily removed, she'll almost certainly take down a minion or two. In the current meta, players wanting super long and grinding games might consider including Evasive Dragon in Resurrect Priest or Armadillo Control Warrior. Another intriguing option would be Secret Highlander Paladin, as although it isn't a target for buffs, it can help ensure the secrets go off and create a terrifyingly resilient board to finish out the game. That being said, her inclusion into these or any other meta decks is not very likely, and she falls short of meta now status. During the new meta, if mid to high cost dragons shift the overall mana curve to a later game, and the aggressive decks which survive have difficulty dealing with this, I think there's a chance Evasive Dragon becomes a stall for a turn tech card in decks looking to assemble a combo to close out the game. This War Golem with taunt and anti-targeting probably will see play in a meta deck or two. And the stars align! While she has taunt, so she's not likely to survive at full health to set up for a Starliner combo, she is one more vital minion in the pool of activators for Starliner to use with all the mana and minion copy tools we used to pull off the Starliner combo in each class a couple months ago. She might also provide quality stall for other meme decks looking to buy time, so we'll go ahead and give her meme deck worthy status as an enabling card. Another land-walking dragon variant appears to be a cousin of Chromagus. The Twin Tyrunt is an 8-mana, 4/10, spewing a localized flame strike. Its battlecry deals 4 damage to 2 enemy minions. So it's a very mini flame strike with a 4/10 body for 1 mana more. Primordial Drake was better overall as it had taunt, and it could hit all other minions, but this won't hit your own minions, and does some serious work towards clearing the enemy out in a dragon synergy deck. It's really expensive, but depending on the dragon pool available and the synergies that'll be coming out, some decks may want to include it. That being said, scrolling through the current meta decks, none of them looked as though they would benefit from slotting this card in. If it were a mana or 2 cheaper with similar stats, Combo Priest might consider picking it up, but they don't usually use Moshog Enforcer, so this card doesn't have a chance. If enough dragon synergies are printed during this expansion, and the dragon synergies are powerful enough, there's a chance this sees play in a Highlander Dragon Mage or another Highlander Dragon deck. However, with what we've seen thus far, this doesn't fit a vital need or reach the power level that'll be needed to survive in the new meta, so I can't give this meta later status right now. And while Mini Flame Strike on a body is fun to say, other than the dragon tag, this doesn't really stand out as a meme deck worthy card. We might consider including it in our Dormammu the Timeless or Immerse Control Dragon Hunter meme decks because it can help clean up a bit and has nice stats. But this card itself doesn't inspire the memes. Not meme deck worthy. And finally, the card which everyone got, or will get, from logging in before the expansion comes out. Sathru Var. He's a 9 mana 5/5 with a battlecry that allows you to choose a friendly minion, adding a copy to your hand, deck, and battlefield. Unlike all the other cards we've been reviewing for the upcoming expansion, we get to see how this demon pairs with the current meta through actual gameplay and experimentation, as he's already out. At first glance, he's too expensive to use effectively, as most high-value minions don't survive until the following turn, when you'd have enough mana to drop this guy. But he's already thrashing about in the meta in Shrivala OTK Paladin decks, and there are a number of other powerful decks which use him. Also, with Emperor Therissian back in Standard at the moment, some decks which wouldn't normally be able to use him effectively can include him. Whatever the case, as a participant in the Shrivala OTK Paladin deck, he 100% clears the requirements for Meta Now status, backed by Imperial data. It's unlikely the OTK Paladin using Sathru Var will fall completely out of the meta, and there's a good chance that another deck or two will pick him up. While I don't see a great combo option at the moment, Priest already has Fate Weaver to discount him, and other reliable methods of using him will likely develop later as well. Sathru Var is meta later. As for meme decks, a card that gives multiple extra copies of a minion is very much a meme deck enabler, so this is guaranteed status as a meme deck worthy card. Will we make a Fate Weaver, Multi-Madame Lazul Thief Priest? Yes. And many other meme decks. Actually, if you're watching this video shortly after it's released, there's a good chance we're experimenting with Sathru Var decks over on Twitch this weekend. Come join in. And that's the last card that was revealed Blizzcon weekend. Stay tuned for more reviews as the rest of the cards for Descent of Dragons are revealed. But for now, let's get into the quick reviews. Ysera Unleashed sleepily swoops into the current and future meta, as well as meme decks. Breath of Dreams doesn't have what it takes now, but will be meta later, and enable some memes. Corrosive Breath doesn't merit inclusion in meta decks at the moment, or later, but we'll throw it in an Immerse Control Hunter meme deck. Malagos Aspect of Magic magics his way into all three categories. Dormammu the Timeless doesn't fit into any of the current archetypes, but I'm gonna risk saying he will join the meta, and he does enable some fun meme decks. Sand Breath is not something you want to breathe in the current or future meta, but Hand Buff Dragon Paladin welcomes the memes. Waxadread actually melts its way into all three categories and threatens to overflow from Toland's Goblet. Without more support for Dragons and Rogue, Candle Breath doesn't make it into the meta now or later, but it may be able to mold a meme deck. While impressive, Lightning Breath doesn't earn meta now status, looks unlikely for the new meta with what we know thus far, and as Dragon Shaman may truly just be a meme, this card does get meme status. Deathwing doesn't descend into the current meta, but does have potential for the upcoming meta, and all will burn! Twice, with War Master Boon. Sadly, Molten Breath doesn't join the meta now or later, but does flow into our War Master Boon dragon deck. Dragonbane is blasting its way into all three categories. Doorman Sharpshooter wouldn't make it in current meta decks, but he can find a role in the upcoming meta, and he's great bait for our Smorc meme deck. Stalker secretly shifts into all three categories effectively. Dragon's Hoard doesn't fit Tempo Rogue, but it's a great other class card generating 1 mana spell for the new meta, and it's ready to unleash the Rogue Shudderwalk or Archmage Antonidas highlights for us. While Evasive Dragon wouldn't join any current decks, she's likely to find a home in a new meta deck, and Starliner is happy to have her around. At least the twin tyrants' heads can comfort each other for not making it into any of the categories. Sathru Var has already scanned himself into the meta, threatens to copy his performance in the new meta, and facts himself into some memes. Yes, I went there. Anyways, that's a wrap. Of course, this is a subjective review, but I'm making some pretty direct predictions. Let me know in the comments below if you think I missed something, or if you agree or disagree with something I said. Subscribe or check back for future reviews coming soon. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep exploring.